What's going on, Georgetown, Texas? Welcome to episode 64 of season 5 of podcast Talking Throws, Texas style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
And we're back at it again, about to record a new episode. Guys, we want to thank everybody for our sponsors for season 5, Texas Track and Field Coach Association. Stuart Kander does a wonderful job there. Go to that website, ttfca.org, to check out the latest news and everything Texas track and field going on. Indoor meets are about to start here, so I'm sure if you need any more information on where to register or how to sign up or where to pick up packets, go to that site. Our favorite implement company, 4throws.com. Right now, if you use 4throws10, you can get 10% off all indoor shot puts. Go to 4throws.com or use our code TalkingThrows10, and you'll be able to get a discount off the brand new Fiber Sports Discus right here. So we're working with each other with 4Throws.
Vanna over here failed.
Yeah, Janelle's late.
Fired.
There we go. And it really comes in this really cool bag. So use Talking Throws 10. And also, too, on our website now at the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a link to go straight to Fiber Sports Discus to get all the information about the technology that Bruce did behind the design of the shot put. Also, Porta Circle, making throwing more accessible. Go to Porta-Circle. Use Talking Throws 10. Winter's here. It's cold outside right now. Kids can't go outside. They need to go in the gym to get the reps in. What better tool to use than a Porta Circle? Put it down. You can work rotational discus. You can work rotational shot put, hammer as well. So it meets all the needs. It's sturdy and reliable, and it doesn't move. So it's good to put on a basketball gym or a school hallway. Our favorite Ready Up, athletic development, ran by Zach Phillips. His cell phone is 512-507-8347. You can follow him on Instagram and Facebook. His website is readyupad.com. Again, that's Zach Phillips at Ready Up Athletic Development in Austin, Texas. His cell again is 512-507-8347. And then again, like we said, Fiber Sports Discus. Welcome to a new way to get the distance. Fiber Sports Discus is taking the guesswork out of the rim weight. We've been using these discus now probably for about 2 to 3 months and just been blown away with, the flight, the carry, how it doesn't turn over, the spin rate, the feel of it. From all our athletes or people that we work with have been really pleased with the performance they're getting with Fiber Sports Discus. So go to 4Throws or go to our website, throwingfactory.com, and you'll find the link. But remember to use that discount code TalkingThrows10. Okay. And then also, if you go to our website, remind y'all that Wes at the Throwing Factory, led by Coach Kai, is looking for throwers, especially javelin throwers. If you are a multi-athlete and you want to learn javelin or a good basic shot put glide, go contact Coach Kai, and he'll get you taken care of. And then Coach Jarvis East at the Throwing Factory is looking for throwers and getting ready for his summer season as well. So his contact information is on the site. Remind everybody, too, that we're now on YouTube. So you can just Google Talking Throws podcast on YouTube, and you get to see our pretty faces every time we appear. So enjoy that. So on episode 64 today, this currently lives in Austin, Texas, and she can always be seen at the Texas Relays. She's had 2 different stints as a coach at University of Texas from 1984 to 1989 and from 1993 to 2012. She is in the Texas Track and Field Coaches Association Hall of Fame. She's also in 2015 was inducted into University of Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame. In 2004, she was the head of the Women's U.S. Olympic team. In 1975, she begins the women's track program at Arizona State University, and she's also a published author. Please welcome to episode 64 of Talking Throws Podcast, Season 5, Miss Susan Humphrey. You've coached and been around a lot of great athletes. Yeah, we want to talk in a little bit of the throwing, but just your overall assessment of what takes the Olympic athlete to really get there in their approach, whether he's a triple jumper or it's a Ryan Krauser shot put, and a little bit of your background, and just kind of winging it. We're looking to broaden the podcast a little bit, and you're a hardcore Texas person, and we just want you to be a part of it.
Okay, can I plug my new book?
Oh yes.
Oh,
Yes.
let me get a copy then.
Okay.
Let me see here.
Yeah, that's the
I
one
will
I was
look.
just looking at
Oh,
on,
okay.
on Amazon.
Yes, yes.
That's one I'm super interested. I pulled that up. I was like, I need to buy this. I teach middle school and how.
Oh, this is perfect for that.
Yes, and so I'm ready to pick your brain about all the things that you know.
Well, let's start. So what was the idea about getting this book started?
Well, with the pandemic, I was kind of like, okay, I've been wanting to write a book for years and just never really had the time, or I guess the bug to really do it. And so then when I had a little bit more time, I said, well, let me be realistic. I'm a field event person, but most of the world is a running person or running people. So I said, let me focus on just the running part for the beginner. In other words, the parents, the coaches, a lot of times the parents are the coaches of these young kids, and give them an overview or an outline of what it takes. Because so many times when we get them to high school, and especially when we get them to college, you have to break the bad techniques before you can make progress. And so anything that we can do at the grassroots level to get the right techniques in, it's better for the athlete, better for the coach.
So what did you just bring a lot of your experience into the research to kind of put pen to paper for this book, or was it kind of research based?
No, a lot is experience and just basic how to. I take it all the way. I put it at the beginning as a little bit of history of track and field and the Olympics, and the first Olympics, and that only men could compete, women couldn't compete, and that type of thing. And ironically, a lot of people have expressed interest in that part, saying that was really interesting because they didn't know that had all happened. So yeah. I was like, okay, well, good. And then I take it from the 100 all the way through the 3,200 relays, hurdles, and break it down by event, so that they can either look at all the events or pick ones they're interested in. And then the closing part is the off the track, what I call the off the track events, the sleeping, the nutrition, the academics, the college scholarships, and this type of thing that are involved too.
Well,
I have a question. So you kind of take each running event and break it down for a kid who's 10, 11, 12, or middle school that says, hey, right, I play football, but I've never run track, or the parents have no clue, and kind of give them a ground roots for that.
Yes. In other words, what the event involves, how you do it, like you've got to stay in your lane in the 100 and 200 and 400, that type of thing.
Really? That's not illegal?
It is amazing how many middle school kids do not know that. They have no
right.
clue.
I mean, very basic type stuff. And then I do a section of very general training for them, so that if it is a parent that's the coach, that okay, here's kind of how you set up a training program for the week for the event. Now, it doesn't go heavy into training. That maybe is my next version, but again, a basic thing of what you would do 1 day a week, this, 2 days a week, that, and so on.
What's the biggest difference in the basic running? Would you say the difference between maybe a kid who wants to run 100 meters in that running style versus maybe a kid who wants to run 400 meters in that running style?
Can they handle the pain?
Can they handle the pain because of the distance?
Yeah, I mean, the fact the 400, you have to run it well, you've got to go all out. And, but I mean, you've got to pace it a little bit for the youth. You can't just say blast out because they'll die at like 120, but you've got to, you know, kind of pace through there or have a plan of action, if you will, so that you don't die on that final straightaway, that you have something left in the kick and so forth.
Wow.
So from a just super basic, because I know this isn't all about the running, but I know coaching middle school kids, trying to teach them how to pace themselves, even in just running. What's a great tip you would give if we got some kids coming out and, you know, all teenage boys want to sprint or they want to run fast. And like you said, 100 yards, and you're like, yeah, no, or even, you know, cross country. What is one easy tip that you would give?
Well, I try to do it by time and try to figure out, okay, every 50 meters or every 50 yards, where should you be? How fast should you be running? So let's say every 50 you're running 10 seconds. I'm just making it up. So 10 seconds, that would be a 20-second 110 or 100. And I then either blow a whistle or holler. And so they start to learn how that feels. What does a 10-second 50 feel? What does a 20-second 100 feel like? And that way they kind of start getting the pacing their internal clock. And actually that's something that I started doing with my age group kids in the 70s. And then ironically, Clyde Hart does that with his quarter milers. And I thought, well, okay, that's not too bad company. So, you know, we try to get them a little internal clock, because once the gun goes off, they're going to just go sometimes. And so you've got to remind them, hey, you know, if somebody takes out on you, don't worry, just stick to your pace or your race plan, because chances are very likely they'll come back to you.
I like that. That's awesome.
What's your assessment of the mental side of our youth, you know, and training our youth and stuff? Because they're so distracted now with social media and all that. And, you know, and that ties us into throwing. You know, we want to bring kids into throwing, but, you know, if throwing's not for them, we want them to be in track and field. You know, how are we losing those kids? And what's your philosophy kind of maybe mentally to maybe bring them into track and field?
I'd say there's so much variety in the sport, whether it's in the running or the field events. It's hard to not find an event for somebody. You know, I mean, my limited athletic career, I threw because I was slow as molasses. And what did you do if you couldn't run? You threw. So, you know, but again, I realized very quickly that my interest in the sport was not going to be maintained through my athletic ability. So I needed to have something else. And at that time, then, because I was in education and teaching, the coaching was kind of a natural segue. And so I think a lot with the mental is to make it fun. Like you say, nowadays, they are so distracted and so many different stimuli coming at them that it's just a nonstop, they're nonstop attack with things. And so you've got to make practice fun. You've got to keep it short increments, because their attention span is limited. Even if you're throwing, you have to have a lot of different drills you might be working the same concept, but a lot of different drills so that they kind of think it's different, even though you're reinforcing the same overall skill. Or just have variety in the workout as you go through. And I think adults, it's the same thing too, you know, is we get attached to our phones and just, you know, the whole thing, what they say a while back before movies became quite as prevalent, or the streaming, is we were tuned into 30-minute TV shows. And so you've got the commercial and you know, okay, how much you could get done in that 30-second or 60-second commercial. You could run, you go to the bathroom, you get a drink, you know, you could kind of plan that out. And so our attention span, I find it hard to sit through a 2-hour movie.
That's true.
Because everything has been more shortened for me, so that I get the burst, and then, I'm able to keep my interest going. But, to sometimes sit through a 90-minute or 2-hour movie, I'm like, ooh, this is a little different.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. Do you think kids, if they take that fun approach and into track and field, we can bring more in? Because we're, not say we're losing kids to soccer and select basketball, and kids now in the state of Texas, as you know, are playing football year round. What do we need to do to get our youth into track and field, maybe before they go to middle school?
Well, I think, like you said, the youth, there are so many different options that they seem to like the team aspect, the camaraderie with their classmates or friends. So even though track is an individual sport, you can still make it a team activity. And so I think if we can do a little more of that before isolating them into an event area or, a specific event type of thing, I think there's too much specialization nowadays for the youth. I mean,
is it really? Yeah.
I have friends whose kids are on select volleyball, select basketball, and it's just ridiculous, truthfully, and expensive to go through this. But in the long run, that's the way they're going to get looked at by colleges. And so the parent, of course, thinks that, every parent thinks their kid is the best one. And so you're going to have the college scholarship in mind, but not everybody is college ready or college potential or Division I. I mean, sometimes the parents need to do a internal check too as to what's reality. And so I think, if we keep things as to, I find it challenging to understand these youth Olympics and youth international meets. And, I know there's youth nationals, and I've taken kids to youth nationals, and I've done all of that. But what I've also found is that a lot of the youth, by the time they were 14, 15, and so on, were bored because they had gone through this all. They traveled all around the states. They maybe had made a, quote, international team. And so they went to something else. And I think that's a harm that we've really got to watch. I think the marketing in track and field is pathetic. And I think we could be doing so much more with that. I know some of the athletes I work with, we talk about this all the time, the older, the professional ones, that, we've got to market it. We've got to make these, our athletes as common name as the NBA or the NFL people. I mean, and even in Texas, it's ridiculous that some of these, quote, soccer, football people are more known to, the youth than some of our top Olympic champions. I mean, they don't know who Ryan Crouser is.
No.
I mean, maybe in Texas they do because he went here, but
Yeah. Well, of course, he's a good friend of the show, and I actually dressed up like Ryan Crouser for Halloween. And
there you go.
I had the cowboy, and I had the cowboy hat on. I even had the bib on. I'm a 6'2" version, fatter, older version of Ryan Crouser.
Did you get the mullet though?
That's true.
That's true. But point being, we ran around and nobody knew who I was except my immediate kids. And
that's sad.
I had to have a picture on my phone, of him, like in Tokyo or even in Rio, and like, this is who I am. And they're like, oh yeah. But it's after the fact.
Right.
Kids, it's like, whatever, if you're a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, whatever sport, I'm like, he's the this of his sport, right. He's the Tom Brady. And they go, oh, okay, I get like that's who he is in his event. Oh,
right.
Well, that's kind of a big deal. I'm like, yeah, it is kind of a big deal.
See, that's what's rough, is that you have to explain it, that secondary knowledge. I think, and I might be dating myself in this, but I think FloJo was probably the first and only kind of international one that you could say FloJo in a classroom and the kids would know who she was. So I think again, and look at what marketed her. It wasn't necessarily just the gold medals. It was the flair, the fashion, the long fingernails, the makeup, because back then that was not as common as it is today.
Yeah. And that's funny. You could probably maybe say 4 or 5 people that are kind of the Mount Rushmore of people that are known worldwide. Flojo, Carl Lewis, then Bob Beeman, just because of what he did accomplish wise. I think that. And then the other two would maybe just kind of be hit and miss. I think Ryan might be on there now, but from a global perspective. So.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those people are more popular in Europe than they are here. Ryan can't walk around in Europe. I mean, granted, he's 6'7" or whatever he is, but he's a very imposing figure one way or the other. But like one of my former athletes, he's a starting center for the Cleveland Cavaliers basketball team. Well, he's 6'10" and has an afro, big, and so he can't walk around. The basketball players, there's somebody because just of their height. But a lot of these football players, because they're covered, you don't really know them or see them as much. As in track athletes, we've got that visibility. We need to, take more advantage of it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to kind of jump back to where you talked earlier about making track and field fun in a team event. That's something, that our kids who've never done it, I've been in a middle school for a while, when they realize that it's a team event and that's where you win the big trophy, at the end of a meet, and how we tell them how important it is that you got this 1 point. They're like, well, I got last. No, you didn't. You got this point, and they get to bring home. Our district does a really good job of, we get a huge trophy at the end of that middle school meet. And then you have to explain to those kids, your 6th place helped to win this trophy. We won by this many points. So, we try to preach that. And that, I think, is a way to kind of tie those kids in that aren't the gold medalist.
Exactly. Because I hate the participation route that we've gone now, where everybody gets a trophy or everybody gets a medal. I think life is not that way. And if a kid just grows up and thinks that, well, just by participating, I'm going to get a reward, they're going to have a hard fall when reality hits. And so I think society has done a great disservice to our youth and even millennials to be thinking that way. That when we were growing up, you had, there was a first, a second, a third, or whatever. And maybe you won and maybe you didn't win. But like you say, tying it into the overall picture, hey, that 1 point made a difference. You kept, you helped as you were progressing along. We even, in Arizona, where I'm from and where I started with a lot of the track things, is we did field event relays where we would have a total relay meet. And instead of it, obviously the running, you'd figure that out. But like, let's say in shot, every team, you would take the top 2 or 3 distances, add them together. And that was the winner, not the person who threw the furthest. It was a team scoring. And then, as to long jump, we did that. High jump, we did that. So you added, like I say, you picked ahead of time, whatever it was going to be, the top 2 or 3. And so you might have a 6-foot high jumper and a 4-foot high jumper, and they would win just because of the average, and that was better than a bunch of 4 or 5 high jumpers or whatever. So, you can mix and match and make things fun, and not just do the traditional track meet. I think that's part of our marketing too, is that we need to come up with creative ideas. You don't have to have every event at every meet. I know we in field events maybe don't like the 4 attempts or 3 attempts, but it does speed things up. I don't like that they don't always measure every event, every throw or jump. I don't really like that at these meets, but I kind of understand it, but I kind of don't, so it's like, well, you timed everybody, so why aren't you recording everybody's throw? So, But that again, I'm the proponent of naming the sport field and track too. So, you know, it kind of goes.
We'll support you
We
on
need-
that
So
one.
did you like the American, was it called American Legion track or something like that they had this past summer? Do you like what's going on that with the little circuits throughout the U.S.?
Oh yes, definitely. What was it, Journey to Gold or something?
Yeah.
Well, there's different. The Journey to Gold is something that USA Track and Field put on, and that was good because it gave our Olympic level or performance, our pro athletes, a chance to compete domestically. They didn't have to travel over to Europe to get competitions, and that we have sorely needed in the U.S. for many years. So the fact they did that and then put prize money with it definitely helped, because that way our athletes were able to earn a little bit of money. They're not getting rich, don't kid yourself. Now Ryan maybe, but the rest of us aren't. Ryan and Joe are, but we'll work on the others. But they, you didn't have the long travel times, you didn't have the jet lag. I know a lot of our Olympic athletes did not go overseas until Tokyo, because Europe is one direction and Tokyo is the other, and you have all these time zone issues. So I think that concept was fantastic, and it's my understanding they're continuing it and even having a little more coming up in 22. Then there's a circuit, the American Track League, that Paul Doyle out of Atlanta puts on, and it's the same kind of thing. A few events, men and women. He has it in like a 2 to 3 hour window. He's got music, he's got cheerleaders, he's got all kinds of extra stuff, and really hypes it up. And he had it on ESPN last year, which was awesome. Because now we're getting the TV coverage too.
Yeah.
I think we really missed the boat during the pandemic by not, when a lot of these sports were not being held, by not somehow getting the time. I mean, if they can do what is that cornhole thing where you throw that beanbag?
Or tag, freeze tag.
Yeah, that's on ESPN now. Yeah.
They've got all that, those events going on, and yet you don't have an Olympic sport. Yeah. So again, that's where I say our marketing has fallen very short, and I really don't understand why, but that's reality. We need to change that.
Backup question. You talked about relays and throws and stuff. So I just have to, are you the inventor of the Fat Man relays for the throws event? I want to know now. But the exclusive.
I use that to my advantage, because they let us put, when I was coaching at, I'll tell a secret now. I was coaching at St. Stephen's Episcopal here in Austin, and our throwers were not very good. Our field event throwers were not very good throwers, but they were fairly fit. So to do the Fat Man relay, they kind of excelled at that, And so we always did take advantage of that. And then it blew my mind when the winning, the award to win was a Snickers bar. And I'm like, oh my goodness, here we're trying to be healthy, and you're giving, quote, the Fat Man the Snickers bar. So, but no, I did not start that. And I did not start the coaches relays, which is a hamstring ready to pull.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
sure,
an injury for sure.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you about to jump off of her book?
No, go ahead.
Before I know we have a lot of things we want to talk to you about, but in your recent book about nutrition, give us a little bit insight into, what you talk about nutrition and education for those young athletes, because those are two things that, most of them don't really realize. I mean, I can think back to I played some little bit of college basketball. My nutrition was horrible. What is something, that you said about that, and then also about education for that age group of kids?
Well, I think the nutrition, unfortunately and fortunately, starts at home. And that can be a blessing and a curse, because if you're in a situation where you have the various healthy foods around and have somebody to prepare the items or learn how to prepare the items yourself, you don't need somebody to cook for you. But, if you're 7th or 8th grader, you might want to be careful around like a gas stove or something like that. So, I think just knowing the different things, I worked in middle school for 30 some years here in Austin, and lunch traditionally was these chips or Takis or Cheetos and soda.
Yep.
Well, then you wonder why you're not able to handle things in the afternoon and your energy level is zero. So I think just knowing that and the options that school lunches are providing are a lot better now than they used to be. Now, they're still not always great. I think when I was teaching, that ketchup was considered a vegetable or a fruit. And I'm like, yeah, that's pushing it a little bit, but we had grapes and we had salads, and, the food was prepared a little bit more carefully than before. So I think just providing the different options and expressing that to the kids and showing them what's the pros and what the cons are, and what to have, a little afternoon snack, a protein type of thing, or a little carbohydrate before going to practice to be able to function and feel better. And I think now it's becoming more of a talking point in the coaching world too. And so this helps that they can express that to their student athletes. Also, when you're on trips and you've got, you're there for the day or the weekend, and you have the parents bringing snacks, kind of guide the parents as to what to bring, talking about, the apples versus the candy bars, or bananas, peanut butter, crackers, these type of things. So I do put that in the book as to different healthy choices and healthy options versus the fried foods and that type of thing. I think we get sometimes caught up in the economics of it too. And that you've got to watch, because healthy is more expensive than fast food usually. So, we've got to be careful with that. And that's why I say, if you have a household where the products are there that are healthy, it's a lot easier to prepare them than if you're on your own and you're kind of a latchkey kid that you're doing for yourself. And that's what's hard. Colleges now, are really big on nutrition and athlete dining hall and all that. That's a total difference from when most of us were, in school, either coaching or competing. So I think is to just keep educating, keep bringing things up. The hydration part has gotten to a point where, everybody's carrying around their little water bottles now. I think that, reminding kids that the Powerade needs to be diluted, or the Gatorade needs to be diluted, not just chugged totally, at whatever 30 grams of sugar that it is. So, I think there's a lot more going on now than there was even, 5 or 6 years ago in that area.
What's your opinion on supplements and stuff to like our pre-teenagers and stuff like that? Would you encourage them to take supplements and stuff? Because some kids are on board with nutrition, but some kids, how are kind of maybe over the top.
Well, just kind of. And I think, again, where did they get all that over the top? It's at home. I don't really think that they come up with that on their own. I could be wrong, but I think it's kind of fed to them that way. Truthfully, I think the diet is what's the key thing there. My athletes do not take supplements other than maybe a multivitamin. Maybe some of the females need to take iron as they get older, distance runners especially. So, there's little things like that. But to go into, and I'm saying, you've got to just be careful, because a lot of the supplements don't always tell you what's in the supplement. And if you are an older athlete, meaning a junior level or a senior level athlete that gets drug tested, a lot of these little idiosyncrasies that are in there that are not on the label can give you a positive test. And to say, well, I didn't know it, is not an excuse. And so if you're looking to be a national/international athlete, you better be very, very careful, because they don't listen to, I didn't know it. You're responsible for anything that goes into your mouth, whether it's toothpaste or drink or, protein powders, all these different things that you've got to be so careful of. I mean, the bodybuilding or the weightlifting families, they're into that a lot more, as to the protein powders and this and that. But again, you've got to be so careful as to the quality of the powder that you're using, that you're taking, So I think that's a real scary, slippery slope, if you will. I think I would stress with the younger athletes and, high school level athletes too, to supplement, quote unquote, supplement with your diet and, maybe a protein drink after practice. I mean, the theories, within 30 minutes after you're done your practice, to have something that has 30 grams of fat, 30 grams of protein or something like that. And you can get those pretty easily off the shelf, that are pretty generic type of things that, will help you recover. Because that's mainly the thing too, is you're trying to recover your body for the next day's workout.
Great point. Great point. So, man, that's amazing. I'm so glad we had you on. Moving on a little bit, I'm curious, how did you climb the ladder in track and field to become the head coach for the 2004 Olympics, and then your association with different Olympic teams and stuff? Tell us about that.
Well, I think the climb up was just to volunteer for everything and anything from when I was 20 years old and up, as to going to different conventions, different meetings, whether they be local or regional or national conventions. Back when I started, it was the AAU. And so that was all the sports. But then, as the years have gone by, they've, in theory, are supposed to be more of just a youth type of program. And now the national governing bodies, the NGBs for the Olympic sports, as they call them, have their own division, like USA Track and Field, USA Weightlifting, USA Swimming, and so on. So I pretty much got involved that way by just volunteering to do the grunt work and learning to be an official, learning to be a coach. A lot was being in the right place at the right time. And like I say, volunteering to do things and not being all hung up on, did I get paid for it or not get paid for it? And putting in the hours, networking, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it over the years, because when you figure I started all of this in the 60s, and then I was the head Olympic coach in 2004, that's a few years under the bridge there to go. But
a little bit of experience.
A little bit of time, yes.
Not to interrupt you, but is that position voted on, and it's like you're elected to be the head coach? Is that correct?
You're picked. There's a committee. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a committee. Let's put it this way: if you want to be a national team coach or get in the mix to be a national team coach, there's an application process, certain criteria. Background check. You have to do what's called safe sport, which is because of all the gymnastics mess. You have to have a education component. So you have to show that you've either taken classes or that you've coached athletes to a certain level, so that they know you have some idea of what you're doing out there. And then you apply, and then it goes before this committee. And then they pick the teams based upon your event group. So like if we picked a team for the World Championships this summer in Eugene. Well, you get a head coach, and then you get a sprint hurdle coach, and you get a throw coach and a jump coach and a distance coach. And so when you apply, you kind of tell what areas that you're qualified for, or the committee decides what areas you're qualified for, and you're put into that pocket. Like I would never be considered the distance coach, for anything.
Yeah.
So you kind of get your niche and then work your way up, and you have to serve on beginning teams, like the younger kids teams,
Yeah.
the juniors, the high school. You have to be an assistant coach, then a head coach, and just kind of work it up.
Wow. So you don't get to even to pick your staff then.
No.
Oh wow. Is it one of those situations where you might not even know that person? Is that right? Is there that's possible?
It's possible. It's usually not probable, because you're all in this big pool together.
Yeah, okay.
And so over the years, you've worked in a variety of settings so that you at least have some kind of a working knowledge, hopefully, with the people that are selected with you.
Gotcha.
And, they balance it out on gender and racial and all the different components. So usually if you're in there enough, which to work your way up to a head coach of Olympics or World Championships or Pan Am Games, you've been on enough teams that you pretty much know people. And again, if you want to be considered for that level, you need to make yourself known and get to know these people too.
Good
all
point.
the different people around.
So was there a point in your career when you said that was your goal? Like, I want to be the head US, or was it just kind of, you worked so much and, we're down there in the grind and we're like, hey, someone said, hey, you should try this. You're like, oh, okay.
Well, I think a little of both.
Okay.
It's as a coach, your goals are, or hopefully your goals are, to get your athletes to the highest level that they can achieve, and some of them it's an Olympic gold medal, some it's a state champion, some it's to make a qualifying mark to go to the regional, there's different levels. So you have that component. And then I think too, as a personal goal, you do have different things as professionally. What are your goals professionally? Is it to be a head coach at a university or a head coach at a high school, or is it to be a USA team coach? And because I was more of a middle school assistant principal teacher, so on, I didn't really get into the high school per se. And then elementary school, you don't want those people are more with the little kids. So I did have a goal of working my way up, but a lot of things had to fall into place and a lot of situations had to happen before it became a reality. So, was it a goal? Yes, but it was more of a goal for me to have athletes that I worked with achieve the highest level than for me to achieve the highest level.
Now, as that role as head coach, I'm just kind of curious, are you setting up and organizing travel, team events? Like I picture a coach like a head coach, on the high school level where they got to organize everything and set traveling up, stuff like that. And I know you're not doing it to that extreme, but is that kind of what it's like, or is it more of a morale type and keeping everything on, moving forward?
A little of both.
Okay.
Yeah, in '92, I was the head manager for the women's team. And that's where you are making the tickets and the hotel rooms and the roommates and making sure person is at point A to point B and that type of thing. So that's more the off the track type of things. The assistant coach and then head coach, you're more of a facilitator, because a lot of these athletes have private coaches, obviously, and nowadays we are able to get passes so that these personal coaches can travel and have access to their athletes in the warm-up area and at the Olympics, let's say, or the World Championships. So if an athlete comes to those major meets without a coach, which sometimes does happen, then the event coach would step in and help, facilitate. This happened every national team I've been on, there have been situations like this where you've had to step in and kind of create workouts or call the coach who's at home, what do you want him to do, or film them and send the video back to the home coach. So it's a dialogue. Like I say, you're facilitating between the home coach that got them to that level and then the athlete, obviously him or herself, that's there with you in person. So you're kind of back and forth. The head coach, you also have all the media responsibilities and the interviews. And if something goes wrong, the press blows up in your face. And so, unfortunately, I had several drug situations that were confronting our team at that time. And so, that was the question that always got asked. And so you just had to deal with it.
Welcome back, track people. This is Brandon, owner of fourthrows.com. We're a fast and growing track and field company that specializes in the throws. With our speed shipping, implement warranties, and rock bottom prices on javelins, discuses, shot puts, and hammers, call us up today to talk directly to one of the owners at fourthrows.com.
Yeah. So who's the throws coach for you on that team for 2004?
Jerry Daniels Elder. She was a club coach out of Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. I'm just curious, do you remember any of the shot putters or discus throwers that was on that team?
Do I remember him? Of course. Adam Nelson. In 04, it was a little different because they had the shot put at Athena. In other words, they had them at that separate place, where the first Olympics were held. Yes, so that was maybe a 2-hour bus ride. And as a result, we were housed in Athens, and then the crew went to Athena. And so the throw coach, and then because the men's throwers, Adam, especially Reese Hoffa, those guys were expected to do so well, the head men's coach went there, and the women's throw coach went. So I stayed in Athens, just truthfully, because our women weren't expected to be on the podium, and the men were. Yeah. So it kind of worked its way that way. The discus, Jared Rome, who unfortunately passed away, and so Casey Malone. We've had some real nice guys and ladies that. Aretha Thurman, who then was Aretha Hill. Yeah. She was one of our discus throwers, Susie Powell. Oh, okay. So, the one thing that when I did get selected, usually you're selected a year out, so you do have some time to prepare. I made sure that I went around and got to know the various athletes and or their coaches of people that I thought would have the best chances. And so we had a budget where we could travel to different meets and stuff, so that if I wasn't going to a competition personally with athletes that I had, then I could budget or schedule that in, time permitting. And so I would do that too, so that when the team actually selected themselves at the trials, most of the time I already knew the coach, knew the athlete, or had a rapport going with them. So it wasn't such a hi, how are you, the first time meeting, you're going to the Olympics type thing.
Gotcha.
So I think that was really important.
Yeah, I was wondering, I could picture you of a yellow dog, and you look back to Adam Nelson and go, do you have your shot put today? Because we relate to the high school kid. Do you have your implements? Did you bring the discus?
Do you have your shoes?
Well, you're laughing, but that does happen. And like John Godino was with us also. And I guess Reese and John and Adam were the three. But we have now, because in the emotion of the moment and so forth, we were having athletes forgetting shoes or forgetting their uniform bib number and stuff, or their sweat top that they had to wear on the podium. And so one of the checkout areas for a staff member is to go through the athlete's bag and check and be sure they have everything before the athlete gets on the bus to go to the competition.
Very smart. Very smart.
we figure regardless of how old and how experienced they are, Allison Felix gets checked, Ryan Krauser gets checked, and the first timer gets checked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's going to forget something.
Yeah. And your
yeah.
with the Olympics, did you take part in the opening ceremonies? I'm curious.
Actually, I was able to do so. And that was kind of my Olympics, if you will.
Yeah.
Especially in 92, because it was the first time. So it was all new and different. And, you know, we didn't have the COVID and all of that stuff. We didn't have the terrorism as much as we did later on and all of that. So that was really a memorable moment because I had a male high jumper on the team. So I was able to share that with him that I personally coached, and a female basketball player. And so we were able to share those things kind of as our little group along with the rest of the world. And of course, 92 was the first time the dream team for basketball was part of it. And so during opening ceremonies, you know, you walk in and you do the lap around the track, which is really awesome. You know, it's hard to describe, but it's really cool. And then you stand there forever while the speeches are being given and all that. Well, because some of the basketball players were there, we were getting mobbed by the other countries' athletes who were rushing over to see the basketball players. And our teams that were trying to see the basketball players, because of course they kept secluded and they were off in their luxury hotel and all of this. But it really got a little tense there for a while because they were pushing in, and the little volunteers, Spanish volunteers from Barcelona, were like bug-eyed and they didn't know how to handle it. So it got a little tense, but thank heavens everybody was fine.
Yeah. Did you get to meet any of them? Did you shake anybody's hand?
Actually, Charles Barkley came back and talked to us peasants, and he was back there. It was hilarious. In 96, Grant Hill was there and mingled with us. Who else? Tim Duncan. Actually, LeBron James in 04 was there in Humble. The thing that people don't always realize is before the ceremonies, before you march in, you are in a holding area, which is usually another stadium within walking distance from the main stadium. So like in 92, we were this big auditorium, I think it was like a gymnastics type of building. And so you're put in there by countries and all that. And they even give you a little sack lunch type thing because you're in there for hours.
Yeah.
And so they have the big screen, so that you can see what's happening in the main opening ceremonies. And then you march in, and that's how they line you up and organize. So a lot of the how do you do and the mixing and the pictures and all that are done in that area, not so much once you get out on the field. So that's where we would mingle with the basketball players or the tennis and, see Serena and all of them, or the soccer ladies. And, a lot of that was going on. And that's where that was fun before you ever even marched into the stadium.
I'm curious, because I'm betting the answer is no, because I just love your mentality. Is there anybody you've ever met professionally that you've kind of been starstruck? Is there anybody that Sue was like, oh my God, I just met him?
I don't know. I think it was when I met Barack Obama here in Austin before he was president. He spoke at this the book fair that they have here in October, and he was there walking in, and I was like, oh, there he is, and up close and all of that. Shake his hand. I mean, I got there like at 5:30 in the morning to wait for 11:30 to have 2 seconds to shake his hand. But I think that was probably, as I think about it, that's probably the most impressionable one.
Gotcha. Cool. I just had to ask that and stuff. And then you came full circle and you made it to Tokyo this year with one of your high jumpers.
Right.
What was that experience like, during the whole COVID situation? And was that a little bit different than previous experiences with previous Olympics?
Oh, major. It was a 180 compared to the others.
Really?
First of all, I was not on the team staff. I was there as a personal coach. So that was a little different. We were in a hotel, and we had access to the practice track that the U.S. Olympic Committee had reserved for the games. So we were in there with the other USA teams in training, fencing, weight room, meals, that type of thing. So you got to see other athletes, other sports, but all part of the USA team. But at the hotel, we were in a bubble, and basically on our cell phones, they had the location thing. So they would know if we were out wandering around. And we were told, you are not to go out, you are to stay in the hotel. We could walk a block away to the 7-Eleven. And so I was able to walk to the 7-Eleven.
You get a Snickers?
Yeah, that's right. I had to get my Diet Coke, actually. But then some of the coaches tried to walk out and do more sightseeing, and they got called in about it because their tracking showed that they had left the hotel.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, after being there 2 weeks, some of the coaches decided, because it was all based on your phone, they just left their phones in the room and then went out walking. Yeah. But some of them have the Apple Watch, so that gave them away. So, they were, by the end of the time, they were figuring out how to beat the system. But the Japanese were very, as you would expect, very regimented and a routine, and they expected you to follow it. If they said you're here now, that's where you were. And, it was, that part was all pretty similar. The passes and all, and the routine for that was pretty much the same as other times. But then that you couldn't, like as a personal coach, I could not go to the main stadium to watch the meet except the days my athlete was competing.
Oh, wow.
And so that was kind of a bummer. So I could only have Japanese TV, which was a lot of table tennis and judo and skateboarding, because that's what the Japanese were doing well in. Yeah. Or then figuring out, with the help of the athletes, how to get on the internet back in the States and pick up the NBC feed. So I was able to kind of do some of that too. But that's where you went to the practice track area and took your technology with it and had the athletes help you get logged into the world. Yeah. Because they know how to do it.
How did your high jumper do?
She, she was in the prelims. She did not make the finals, which was my personal goal, so to speak. For her, it was her first time out of the country in a major competition, or first time out of the country. So to be there, to go through the experience was something you could never duplicate, or, you can't practice that. So even though she didn't make the finals, the experience that she got was fantastic. And that I was so happy for and so pleased with, because she had a good experience overall. She celebrated her birthday there, which was interesting, because in the dining hall, the ladies found out it was her birthday because it was somebody else's, a fencer's birthday or something. And so they made up a little plate of some little cakes and stuff and wrote happy birthday on it. And the whole cafeteria sang to them and stuff. So that was nice. And a lot of the camaraderie and the team networking and all of that, I think she really enjoyed that too.
Now, what's her name?
I'm sorry?
What's her name? Your jumper
Rachel
name?
McCoy.
Rachel McCoy. Okay.
Yeah. So watch for her.
Did you coach her at UT?
She did not go to UT. She didn't go to college, actually. She's one of the outliers, as they say, one that fell in the cracks. She had a basketball scholarship to Long Island, LIU, Long Island University. Things didn't work out there, so she came back to California. She's from California. I met her at the 2014 World Junior Championships, which were in Eugene, and she got fourth there. And so I was like, this kid's got some talent here, and she's not in a school program. So I didn't want her falling through the cracks. And so that's how we started to work together. And then after a year or so, she moved here to Austin, and, we've been working since then.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow.
That's
So
nice.
you said earlier that you work with basketball players, the Center for the Cavaliers. And so currently now, are you doing, I think you might be retired. Are you just working with all different type of professional athletes and youth?
Right now I'm working with high school athletes that want personal instruction in the jumps.
Okay.
And then I've got Rachel as my professional athlete. The basketball players are part of my past. So
okay.
they're either retired or playing, he was a jumper for us at St. Stephen's, but also obviously a very good basketball player too. So that's how he and I worked together. And then I knew, he would the one and done at UT to get drafted by the NBA. So I've just followed him through that.
Gotcha. So how did you wind up from going from Arizona to Austin and kind of make Austin your home?
Terry Crawford called me. Actually, I was living in Southern California at the time, and was teaching and coaching there at Long Beach State, teaching in the junior high and helping at Long Beach State. And she called and said, I'm going to be moving to Texas. Would you like to come as a field event coach? And of course, I didn't hesitate too long on that one, because it was always my dream or my goal to coach full time, because all through my career, it was always teach all day, coach at night.
Yeah.
And back looking at my schedule, I don't know how I did it truthfully, but it took the whole day and most of the evening with that. And then of course your weekends and summers. So here was the opportunity to coach full time, not have to teach. And I took like a $9,000 pay cut to come, because I said, I need to either put up or shut up. And I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So came here, and we had a great nucleus of athletes that were here that just were, I guess, underperforming would be the way to say it, because our first indoor season, we got here. Terry, John Miller was the sprint and hurdle coach. And ironically, I had worked with him at Arizona State. He was a grad assistant there. So I knew Terry and I knew John, and then me, and John and Terry would work together at Tennessee. So it was kind of a conglomeration. We all got together at Austin. And that first indoor season, we finished second on the team title with no new kids, really. And so it was just a matter of putting the kids together and giving them a vision and getting them to perform. And they did well. And the rest is history, as they say.
Now, being the field coach, you and even in your bio, I think you said you coached shot and disc, and you did the jumps as well. Is that how that worked out?
Right, shot, discus, and javelin. We didn't have hammer back then, and then the jumps. We didn't have pole vault, so did the 3 jumps and the 3 throws, and I would just stagger the workouts so that, like, at 1 o'clock, I would do office work during the morning. And then at 1 o'clock, I'd have a certain group come out, and at maybe 2:30, another group come out, and then we'd have team stretch at 3:30 or whatever. So I just stagger them. So they always had to be at the team stretch, because that's where Terry was, like, gave announcements and so forth. But I staggered them because you need to, coaching field events, as you well know, is not easy, and it takes a lot of individualized attention, and you've got to work that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing you're a student of the game to kind of, your jumps, high jump, long jump was kind of your specialty. Did you do some research and, asking colleagues about throwing and stuff?
Yes. I mean, I was, again, dating myself back into the 70s and 80s and so forth, is, we didn't have the internet. We had a thing called the library. And you
has books in it.
We had books and paper. And so I would go there and study whatever was available there. Whenever I would go to the Olympic Training Center for clinics or workshops, they had an awesome library there. And actually, at the beginning, they had free Xeroxing. So I think spent my whole life in there Xeroxing stuff.
Yep.
Then they figured out they should charge for it. So then that cut me down a little bit. But, and just networking and talking to a Tom Tellez or talking with the various coaches that were there as clinicians, that, that's just invaluable. Talking to them, talking to John Powell.
Was Dana LeDuc there during your time?
Dana was there at Texas. Yeah, he was the weight strength coach.
Strength coach. Yeah. I was just because he's been on our show before, so I was just wondering, if he was there during the time that you were there. I was just wondering.
Yes, he was there as the strength coach. Mike Sanders was the men's throw coach.
Gotcha.
And we had a bunch of the Swedish, European, Scandinavia throwers, Patrick Bowden in the javelin, Edgar Jacobson or somebody in the shot. So we had a lot of very good male throwers that were from, like I say, Scandinavia type countries. Gotcha. Patrick set the world record there at Clark Field. During one of our meets.
Wow. What do you've been around the highest level of greatest Olympic athletes there is. What separates them mentally? Is there just that competitiveness that they have? What separates the best from the best from kind of the middle of the group?
I think what it separated is
Flo. What separated FloJo or Allison Felix from some of her peers, or what separates Ryan Krauser from some of his peers?
I think just the dedication to task. In other words, that obviously the physical attributes, you can't ignore that. I mean, he has, let's say with Ryan, his family background, they're all throwers, the uncles and the dad and all, I mean, he comes from a throwing family. So you grew up with that. I think he had said his grandpa taught him shot in the backyard or something. So, you grow up with that. You don't know any different. He didn't know football necessarily to get distracted off in that area. He knew just throwing, but also just the focus and the dedication to the task in front of you. I mean, being an elite level athlete is hard, even to the best of the most physically gifted individuals. There's sacrifices that you have to make off the track or off the field that if you don't make them 24/7 and in a consistent manner, you're not going to reach the pinnacle of your performance or the top. I mean, you have to watch your diet. You have to watch how much sleep and rest you get. You can't always go out with friends. You've got to maybe stay in a weekend when you have a meet or something coming up and not just go out partying till all hours. You can't drink all the time necessarily, even though there's some great stories of throwers that have, but you just
answer those.
We won't go into that, but the sacrifice even of money, as to being a Olympic level athlete, there's very few that are making money. I mean, obviously Ryan and Joe are. Darnell Hill is probably doing a little bit, but then as you work down, you've got to either love the commitment and have somebody helping you or willing to work a bunch of little jobs, because you can't work a 9-to-5 job and be on your feet all day. and then go out and train to the level that you have to train. And how many jobs are going to give you every weekend off to travel and summers off? You know, it's, you've got to be in a good situation or a good setting to have all of those pieces fit.
Yeah. Now, I just thought about this because of the soccer situation. You know, the women, the soccer league was wanted equal pay as much as the men, even though they were outperforming the men. Is there a discrepancy between how much men make it than versus, like, say, compare Valerie to Ryan? And I know it's a disc thrower, but it's a shot putter. You know, the girls still trying to earn their money, I guess? Yeah. Does that make sense?
I would say yes and no. I think it's more by event. There's the 100-meter sprinter is going to make more than the top high jumpers, unless you're like a world record holder or something like that. So it's more by event areas. The runners traditionally make more than the field event, except your top people.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard to say because some of the companies have non-disclosure contracts with their athletes that they can't tell you what they're making. So it's hard to really know what everybody is making or isn't making. And, you know, people talk and you can't believe what they're saying anyway. So, you know, somebody might say, yeah, I'm getting 6 figures, and really they're getting equipment and that's it. So it's really hard to know who's telling the truth and what they're actually saying. But, you know, it's a professional sport, but you put into it a lot more than you get out of it in most cases financially, because you think about the American public, 90% of the American public only think track and field is every 4 years at the Olympics. You know, it's like, what do you think we do the other 3 years in between? Just sit around, you know, no, we got to train, we got to eat, we got to live, you got to pay rent, you got to do all these things, even if you're not going for the Olympics that particular year. Yeah. And that's where I think we've got the great disconnect with the society, with the American society, is they just think you just happen, you just walk out and you're Olympic on the Olympic team. You know, one person asked me one time where she went to sign up for the Olympics. And I was like, sign up? What are you talking about? Well, I want to be on the Olympic team, so I want to go sign up. And, you know, I'm like, no, honey, that's not the way it works. Yeah, so, you know, they just don't really have a scope of what all it takes that you go through. And the medical, the upkeep of your body to be preventative medicine versus wait till you get hurt and then you're out, you know, and that costs money, because a lot of these contracts are built on incentives and performances. So if you're not able to perform, that's going to cut down on your income. Yeah. And if you aren't getting your medical treatment or being, you know, preventative treatments, that's going to affect it too. So there's a lot that goes into it that people have to sacrifice and pay for the dream of being an Olympian.
I'm sure. I'm sure you witnessed a lot of great accomplishments in the arena of track and field. Is there a couple off the top of your head that you just are like, and wow, I can't believe I just saw that world record, or I can't believe I saw that person do this? Is there just a couple of cool stories you can share with us?
I think selfishly, watching Charles Austin win the gold medal in Atlanta in the men's high jump, because it was in Atlanta, it was a home crowd, and because I had worked with him and coached him for 6 years leading up to that. Yeah. And just knowing the whole journey that we had taken and all the ups and downs with him, personally and professionally, and just the whole bit, knowing and seeing him come through at that magic moment, that's probably one of my greater, you know, memories, definitely. Again, selfishly, one of my female high jumpers was the first woman in the world to ever clear 2 meters, which is 6 3/4. Yeah. And she did that back in 82. indoors. And so for her to do that, which was again a world record at the time, and the magic mark for high jump, the 2 meters is kind of like 4-minute mile or 70-meter throw in the, discus and whatever. What do we have? 22 in the shot. So these magic marks for her to be the first one ever in the world, that was a memory, obviously, that I will never forget. And to be there in person, and both of those, to be there in person was, indescribable. Let's see. I mean, watching Ryan throw, you just never know. Every time he throws, you're like waiting for the world record. I was there in Fayetteville this last winter when his first meet, when he did so well there. Yeah. So that was cool to watch that, because again, no spectators. There were maybe 30 of us in the building, and you just watch him go, and the shot goes and goes and goes and past the barriers and past the areas where they had lined off, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's pretty darn good there.
Wow. So you were actually in there, like 30 people in there watch that?
Yes, because Rachel was high jumping at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And so what's Charles Austin doing now? Is he in Austin? Where's he at these days?
He's in San Marcos, which is where he has lived since school. He went to school there at Texas State or Southwest Texas back then. Yeah. And he has a gym. He built a personal performance center, So High Fitness. And so he gives lessons there, and has a little group that help him train athletes of all ages, all abilities. They don't have to be athletes. I think he's got, some athlete or some people like 70, 80 years old that come and train with him. He also developed what's called the Bodyboard, which is a piece of equipment where you use resistance bands and a sliding board and stuff so that you can do a full weight workout. You don't need to have weights or, the barbells and that type of thing. You can do all the exercises, same type of exercises on this board with these bands, the resistance bands, and it's fairly portable. And so I know he's sold that to a lot of high schools and NBA clubs, some football teams and so forth. So it's called the Bodyboard. It's TBB. And
writing that down.
Yeah, write that down. And
from a middle school coach that doesn't have much of a weight room or has too many kids, you can never actually get in the weight room.
Right.
So you're just, lifting PVC pipes full of sand, which are, you're finding ways to get 95 kids.
Exactly.
To introduce them to weights. So
exactly. So this is you can you make different stations up. I think you can have four people working at a time on it. They have, sets it up that way. He has a lot of videos on Instagram or Facebook, so you can just look it up there and see.
Awesome.
And it's throwers, jumpers, sprinters. I mean, it's across the board.
Wow. Are you going to be at Texas Relays again this year?
I don't know 100%. Well, okay. See, because here we get trapped into the inner workings of world athletics now, which is the old IAAF, the international governing body. Yeah. And so they have world rankings. And so the athletes earn points and get actually selected sometimes for Olympics or world championships based on this point total. And so the Texas Relays is not a high point meet, ironically. And so there's another meet the next weekend that maybe is going to score a little more point wise. So Rachel and I'll have to see how the season's going and figure that one out. So that would be my only hesitation. Actually, some of the high school kids I'm working with, if I'm there, it will be to watch them compete for their various high schools.
Yeah. And the reason I say that, because we go to the Texas release every year, and that's how I first actually found out about you, was when you were introduced and you're out there on the high jump pit. So it's kind of been over the years when I'm walking around, because that discus ring and the pole vault pitch, close sometimes over there, I always glance to kind of see if you're always over there. And we've actually passed each other a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It wasn't,
You're not 16.
You gotta say something now. Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to come
something.
up and kiss you, but I didn't.
I'll take my mask off.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, man. This has been a tremendous experience. You have anything else?
No, I was just saying that you have just a wealth of knowledge over so much that we could just pick your brain forever. And that's that. I know it's probably irritating, but that middle school teacher and coach in me that just, really, like, I'm going to be buying your book on Amazon, and I'm going to be.
I was going to say now, yes, we need to get, I Want to Run, and it's on Amazon, either ebook or the paperback. So definitely look it up, but or just put my name in the search and it'll pop up also.
We have a YouTube channel as well, so we'll make sure the advertisements of the books and all that
stuff will be on
YouTube on the end as well. I'm curious real quick though, did you come from a athletic family? Was your mom and dad athletes and they were just kind of, I don't want to say push you as a youth? Where did your passion come for sports?
Well, my dad was kind of like me, a wannabe athlete, or loved sports. He wasn't an athlete. He officiated football, ironically. And so I guess I was the boy he didn't have. And so I was the one that took up the sports side of it. My sister was more into the music part of it. So no, not really athletically talented, but had the interest in athletics, definitely. He did just through his youth and through college and so forth. And so I don't know, it just kind of was a natural segue in there. And I played softball and in middle school and a little bit in high school. And then, like I say, got involved with track and figured out real quickly I better do something other than try to compete if I want to stay in track.
So did you ever high jump when you were in high school? Did you ever high jump?
No.
No, never.
But
and that's an accomplishment that I applaud. I just had a conversation 2 weeks ago with a coach who was critiquing somebody who he didn't think was a good coach because they didn't do that event and never participated in it. And I was of the rule of thumb is like, you can't judge them on what they've done in the past. You got to do what they're doing now. And he's producing great kids. And I'm of the belief is you don't have to have a background of being a great athlete and being a great jumper or a great thrower to be able to teach great throwing and great jumping. No.
Right. Well, and actually what I've found over the years, kind of a two-part story here, is that the better athletes are not always the better coaches because everything fit easily for them. Everything just kind of happened. And so they can't always explain it to the non-coordinated person or the not as physically talented individual as themselves. So that's not every good athlete is a good coach. So that doesn't always follow. There are quite a few that are, obviously, but that isn't always. I think those of us that can't had to learn a deeper way with it because we had to find ways to teach and to coach where we didn't feel it. We had to learn what it felt like, and we had to learn what the different positions are and things like that. So, we had to study it. It didn't just come naturally. And what I found out recently is Boo Snecksnyder, the jump coach at LSU.
Yeah.
He's considered one of the best horizontal jump coaches in the world. He never's long jumped in his life.
Really?
So I figured if Boo doesn't long jump, I don't high jump. It's okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. We skipped over this, but you have to look back with a lot of stuff pride to see what has gone on the state, especially on the women's side. And now even bringing up the throws and the history and legacy they've had of throwing there from the women's side has been tremendous. And you started that program.
Right. No, I did actually. Yes. That was when Title IX came in 74, 75, I think. And I was teaching full time in Scottsdale, which is a suburb of Tempe. And the athletic director called me and said, we have to put in a women's program now, have to. And I've heard that you kind of know what you're doing, and would you be interested? So for $4,000, I that was my salary. I taught all day, had an awesome principal who let me leave, when I was done teaching, drive over to Tempe and to ASU and to coach. And back then we had to do everything by mail or phone. We weren't NC2A, we were still AIAW. So there was no recruiting budget of any type. And it was just, you had to sell yourself over the phone, basically. They couldn't visit. The fact that the men's team had just done very well, with the quarter milers, and actually a men's high jump, he had just won the nationals, Kyle Arney. But so we had a lot of in with the sprinters and hurdlers due to the men's side. But we were able to work our way in with some of the Scandinavian women throwers. And Rhea Stallman, Meg Ritchie. Meg Ritchie went down to the University of Arizona, but Rhea Stallman came to ASU, and they battled back and forth for 4 years. They're in the, what would it be, early 80s, leading up to 84 Olympics. And so, and then Leslie Denise, as I mentioned, she was the top American discus thrower, and I had recruited her. She was kind of funny. When she came, she actually was from California, so she and her mom drove over to see the school and all that. We went out to dinner, and I said, do you have any questions? She pulls out like 3 and 4 pages, 8 by 10 pages of questions, single space, typed up. And I started laughing, and I was like, okay, I'll answer them, but where did you get all these? And she said, oh, there was this football recruiting book in the library. And so I just copied down some of those questions. So she came prepared, and we went through it. And luckily she said yes, and she came and did very well for us.
Wow, what amazing! Have you? I'm curious because I'm a big fan of her, and I kind of have a thrower crush on her. Don't say. Have you ever met Maggie Ewing?
Yes.
Have
yes.
you ever met Maggie?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious.
Not
she's
like
legendary at Arizona State.
Right. We're not like best friends or anything, but actually, over Christmas, I was there in Phoenix, and I went out to ASU and met the coaches and all, and talked with them, and saw Turner Washington practicing. And
oh, wow.
So that was, now he's one to have a crush on. So he's and
well, you've probably seen his dad Anthony throw over the years as well.
Right. See, I grew up with Anthony, right? And then of course Brian Blutrick, the coach there at ASU, he was one of the throwers, I think, on 92, or he and his wife Linda Lipskid were very good throwers back in the mid 90s.
Yeah. So were you there at Arizona State while he was there?
Well, who was there? Which one?
By Blutrick.
Coaching? No, he coaches there now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, ma'am, you've done everything for track and field. You're amazing. What you've done and dedicated to the sport is an unbelievable, and we are so grateful, that you've done what you've done to put U.S. track and field on the map, so to speak.
Yeah, we appreciate
well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
This was quite the honor. To
oh yeah, no, I'm humbled. Appreciate you asking. Anytime.
So
So earlier, after I buy your book, I will share it with, because, at my middle school, we always have coaches, young coaches that come in and, coach volleyball or basketball, whatever, and we'll move up the ranks. And I'm like, oh, by the way, you're coaching, track, and you have to learn how to coach the high jump. And like, I don't know what that is. Well, here, or, suggestions on what to do in the short amount of time that in a, school sport, we have those kids. We do like 5 meets, that's it. We maybe do 5 meets. So that's going to be something I'm definitely going to share and promote for you.
Yeah.
Well, good. I appreciate it.
Your brain when I'm
yes.
stuck.
Are you coming up this weekend to the Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame inductions?
Actually, I'll be there tomorrow night. Terry Hairston, who's being inducted, is one of my former athletes. So
oh, really?
I'm there for her, and then driving out early Saturday morning to get to A&M for the high school meet, because I've got kids competing there.
Oh, well, y'all see
all right. I will be there, and I'm going to track you down. So
okay.
And then we're going to have a Snickers bar, a Fat Man relay, and a high jump contest.
In that order, right?
Yes, ma'am. In that order, for sure.
Yeah.
You better lower the bar.
Yeah.
Can
we just get on the mat?
Well, I was going to say, I'm used to sawdust, so the invention of the mat was wonderful.
Oh, yeah. That is true.
And those true. Metal bars, ooh, it's not fun.
I know.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
For sure. Thank
appreciate
you so much.
it.
Safe travels, and we'll see you. All
great.
Right,
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. That was a great one. I could have sat and talked to her forever. 30 years in education. This is just kind of beyond the track stuff. But 30 years in education, I could have asked her just more in-depth questions about how kids have changed, athletes, whatever it is, and just the wealth of knowledge she has from working with middle school kids to, she just recently had an Olympic athlete. She was in Tokyo with an athlete that she coached and has worked with and knows. Just, talk about taking someone from the beginning and truly what it takes. And it doesn't matter if we were asking her about an athlete in table tennis. I mean, she would have some insight, the nutrition, the workout, the whatever, the mental aspect of it, just to get them there. And someone who studied it, who wasn't an athlete themselves. And she admitted that. So not, so she had to study because she didn't have that feel of doing whatever it was. But,
she strikes me as the person who, we talk about hard work to your athletes and perseverance, but she is a person that has worked her craft and developed her skill set, with technique, technology, reaching out and being humble. What kind of grace you have to have as a person to say, hey, I didn't do this, but I'm a world-class coach and I learned to do this and do this, and that it's just amazing. And just to be the forefront for women's athletics, starting Title IX at Arizona State and promoting it through University of Texas, and all she's done for women's sports and women's track and field is amazing. And just giving it back with books and information, helping out the youth, and just really cool. And the mental side of it, she's very good at teaching the physical, coaching the physical, but also the mental side of it. And that time too is you can have a great athlete, but if they're not there mentally, they're not going to be successful. And I think she's the one that can kind of put, the A's and pluses together to equal success.
And even there's something she said about track and field when you asked at the beginning about, why do we lose kids? And she was, we all can say it's this, this, and this, but in reality, like I even wrote it down, it is hard to not find an event that you can do in track.
Yeah.
If you are committed and you have some kind of athletic ability, you can either run fast or run for a long time or jump or throw something, some kind of athletic talent, you can find something that you can do.
For sure. In
track and field. So you don't have to be this specialized, I just do volleyball, I just do this. If you're an athlete, you can go pick up an emblem, start running, training for the right thing, and be dedicated to the right task. And I don't know how many events there are in track field off the top of my head in a meet, but you can find something.
Sure.
If that's what you want to do. And you do compete more than just every 4 years.
It's true.
that is definitely something that you do. So.
Well, we thank her for being on episode 64. we'll go to see Sue down the road and hopefully at Texas Relays.
Yeah. All right, guys, we want to thank our sponsors, as always, Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. Go to ttfca.org for all the latest information. Meets going on like crazy. Check all that out. You're going to make fun of me for saying check all that out again. I need some new words, I guess. Go to fourththrows.com where you can get your fiber sport discus. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. So go to Fourth Throws to check that out. As we're getting, high school track season is starting. We'll be starting by the time this comes out. Porta-Circle.com and use the code TalkingThrows10 to get you a Porta Circle so you can get lots of reps in. And then for those of you in the Austin area, go check out Ready Up Athletic Development with Zach Phillips at readyupad.com or follow him on Instagram or on Facebook. And then don't forget to go check out the Throwing Factory. We're both wearing some sporting some of our, we don't got our podcasts and stuff on.
No, we don't. But this is a new collared shirt that we have. She has on the pullover, new hat. So just go on the shopping page to do that. Also on the bottom of the Throwing Factory homepage, you will be able to find a link to Fiber Sports Discus as well, giving you all the information and science behind the disc itself and the design. So, and there's also one there for Fourth Throws and for Porta Circle. All three use Talking Throws 10 to get that 10% off and get a discount. And then,
hello, Talking Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco discus distributor. I introduced the yellow plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new Fiber Sport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
And then also to remind everybody about our favorite Olympic lifting DFW. The website's up. The trailers were going to be for sale in 2022. So we're going to be getting those out there. So more to come on that. So just continue to follow us and support us in our lifting program with our kids.
Yeah, and give us some feedback. When you were talking earlier, asking her about Leduc, I was like, man, that seems like a long time ago that we had him on our podcast. So have we gotten any better since then? I don't know. We're more famous on YouTube because, you can see us. But let us know. We enjoy doing this. We enjoy what we get to learn from all the people that we've talked to out there. So give us a little feedback.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks.